we're walking through Ephesians. I think if we were jumping through Ephesians, we'd jump right over this one. We wouldn't spend time in this. I wouldn't choose it. But here we are, and we've decided to walk through, and we're going to get the full benefit of the book, and so let us listen to these words and listen to what God is calling us to do. And so Paul has been working on us, as he should. We should be progressing in our sanctification. We've been witnesses of much progression. We live in an age of progression. It's constantly updates and new this and new that. And that's what we need to be. The upgrade needs to be us, constantly. We need to be moving along. And that's what Paul's prayer for us is, for his prayer for the believers then, and for us. And so we are moving along in our sanctification process. Think of sanctification as an upgrade. And it's not just your phone or some technology, it's you. You're being upgraded each week. And so he's getting more and more practical as he goes along in the book. And he's given us some do's, loving one another, building each other up. And we're in the don'ts section. And so let's take a look. There's a format to this. He's listing three don'ts, and then he says it's not in place, or it's not appropriate. And he does that twice. List of 3 sins, then don't do this, not appropriate. And then he gives a suggestion, an alternative. And so let's take a look at it. This is 3 and 4. Let there be no sexual immorality, impurity, or greed among you. And we'll stop there. That's the first list of 3. And we want to take a look at this. Let there be no sexual immorality. The Greek word there is porneia. So you can imagine where what English words came out of that. So here we are, fellas, and Paul is saying, take a look at this. Paul is saying, don't do this. Stop doing this. And I'm addressing the fellas because the statistics show that this is something that men are much, much, much more susceptible than women. It's got to be a brain thing. We are definitely the weaker sex in this subject. We seem to be hypnotized and stupefied, and women seem to be immune. Even at seminary, they said they went through the server and they found that people had accessed pornography there at the seminary in the building. It is a problem. It is highly addictive, and so ladies, be merciful in the sense of clearly this isn't something that you guys are really immune to this, and so when you have a guy, a father, grandfather, brother, uncle, boyfriend, husband, who's struggling with this, be merciful in the sense that he's not a monster, he's a man, and men have trouble with this. That said, don't accept it, and it's not appropriate. The man needs help with it. And so men, we've got to protect ourselves from this. We need to stop doing it. Let this be, if anyone's struggling with this, let this be your call from God right here in these words. Let there be no pornography among you. And God can set you free. I want to tell you that. I want to share that with you. God can set you free. Tell somebody. Open up to it. Go to the prayer group afterwards. Tell another person in your family of believers and find help. And God will set you free. And we've got to really protect ourselves, guys, because it's, the world justifies it and thinks it's not really a big deal. It's even argued as healthy. But it's highly addictive. And so we've just got to take this word as it is and protect ourselves and stay away and take care of one another and support one another. So that first point, let's look at it, and if this is your day, let it be that day. Let God help you and help yourself. Protect yourself from that. Impurity is pretty self-explanatory, or greed. And greed is the main point today. Greed is the key today. And we'll see this. And what we see in this is he's got the list of 3 twice, says they're not appropriate, and then he says at the end, look at the end, instead, let there be thankfulness to God. And that is really the antidote for greed. We've got greed versus thankfulness. And that's what Paul is giving us. Okay, I don't want you to be greedy. Instead, be thankful. And we look at most sins, and the essence of them come from greed. The pornography, where does that come from? Why would we do that? It's greed, isn't it? It's wanting more than God has given you or will give you. It's this constant wanting more, and that's what sin always is, and that's what the devil always does. It's to give you a taste and just have you always wanting more. You're never satiated. You're never happy. You're never thankful. And that's the danger of the addiction, is it always constantly wants more. Any addiction. And so how do we come back against that? Where should we go? Instead, we should be thankful. Be thankful for what God has given you, and then you don't look elsewhere. You don't need elsewhere. It's so unhealthy to always be looking and yearning for and lusting for beyond what God has given you. Instead, be thankful. Focus your eyes on what God has given you or what He will give you instead. And so this is the essence of getting away from this greed and addiction and sinfulness is thankfulness. It's gratitude. Greed versus thankfulness. And we're going to come back to greed. You're going to see how important it is in this section. So, such sins have no place among God's people. This is the next group of 3. We've got obscene stories. That's in the Greek filthiness, filthy stories. Foolish talk, which actually in the Greek is moron logic. The Greek word for a fool is moron. That's where we get it. And then coarse jokes. And this actually, when I got into the Greek, it said the actual translation is a well-turned phrase. And I thought, wait a second, who doesn't like a well-turned phrase? And this one hits me pretty hard and makes me think, now wait, And in courses, I like the New Living here. It does a good job. So I used it. I don't usually use it because it's a paraphrase, but it does a good job today. Course, this is the translators, putting this on there. It says well-turned phrase. And so I'm thinking, and they are right to put a negative spin on it because that's what Paul's doing. But I'm thinking, now, am I being told not to joke? If we took a survey, that's one of my best qualities is a sense of humor. I'm like, what else? I don't have much else, God. This is what I'm working with here. I won. I was awarded the class clown by my peers at Robert E. Lee Junior High School in 9th grade. And there was some stiff competition, let me tell you, okay? So this one I had to really think about and say, now wait a second. Am I to stop joking? Is this the call? And then I think, how powerfully good is humor? Humor can be so healing. It can be so helpful to people. And so I'm thinking through this, and so then I looked. Okay, now what's the context of what Paul is saying? And remember, just a week or two ago, we had the filter. I was wearing the filter, and it's Ephesians 4:29. Let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building people up as they need it, according to their needs, so that you may benefit those who listen, so that you may give grace to those who listen. So you think, okay, let's think about the filter. And then let's think about the main point in this passage, greed. And so what we have here is really a criteria for if I should tell this joke or make this comment or use my humor in this certain situation. Because humor, as it's such a, humor is a gift from God, isn't it? I mean, it is, and it's such a wonderful thing. But like all the powerfully good gifts of God, they could be corrupted and they can be powerfully bad. Humor can be one of the most biting things that we use against others, right? It's a cut down for a reason, isn't it? I mean, it could just pull the rug out from under you. And so what we need to look at is how is this joke or is this humor or what I'm about to say, keeping on the filter, is it helping others or is it hurting? Is this going to benefit? Is this going to build up? Or is this a greedy thing? Is this for me? Is this to show how funny I am? Or show that I'm better? Or to poke a little, we use humor also in a very greedy way. And so really what we're called to do here is to have a criteria, is to have that filter over our mouths and look at ourselves and say, and think about, even in the moment, should I say this? Is this appropriate right now? Well, is it going to build this person up? Is it helpful? Is it going to give grace? Or is it going to cut down? Because humor can do either one. And so we need to be aware of that. And that's what that's the criteria we can ask ourselves. Does this joke build up or cut down? And so that's the first couple verses, and we keep going. You can be sure that no immoral, impure, or greedy person, that is actually the exact same as the first set of three. The first set of three that up at the top, sexual immorality, impurity, or greed, is repeated exactly here. You can be sure that no immoral, impure, or greedy person will inherit the kingdom of Christ and of God. For a greedy person is an idolater, worshiping the things of this world. And so we don't really understand or can relate to the Old Testament idolatry, can we? That, why are they setting up images? What is that? Why would they even do that? We have a hard enough time even, thinking about the whole sacrificial process, and we think, why would they do a golden calf or set up a pole and put an image on it and then worship it? That makes no sense to us. And so we read that and we can't really relate, and we just think idolatry, that's not something that I really struggle with. That's just not something I do. Well, what are we doing when we're looking at images of women and it's overcoming us? And it's taking a priority over us, or it's it's idolatry. There's plenty of modern idolatry. It says, for the greedy person is an idolater, worshiping the things of this world. Worshiping the things of this world. How about when we're prioritizing the things of this world and we're making sacrifices to them instead of making sacrifices to God? We do this all the time. We sacrifice our time and our talent and our treasure to the things of this world. We make a decision, well, no, I have to do this because I need, we have in mind, in front of us, the things of this world, and we're making all the sacrifices for that, and we're prioritizing that. We're worshiping the things of this world instead of God. So we're knee-deep in idolatry. It's just a different look. It's the things of the world are constantly being shown around us. They're up in the windows. They're driving by. They're as you're flipping through your phone, and everyone's showing the things of the world, and we're making all of our sacrifices to it. It's idolatry. We're just as guilty as they were back then. So there's plenty of modern idolatry. And Paul says greed can't enter the kingdom. I don't think greed wants to enter the kingdom. It's not seeking the kingdom. It's seeking the things of this world. And so greed is not going to be in the kingdom of God. We need to let that go. We need to see ourselves. Paul's really shining a light. There was the movie, it was real popular, Wall Street, that had Gordon Gekko, remember, and he gets up and he gives the speech that greed is good. Remember that? Yeah, that was Oliver Stone movie. Greed is good, he says. It cuts to the essence of it was like human evolution. It cuts through. It's what is good today. It's what drives us to be better, to progress, for progress. That is a lie. I mean, the movie itself shows how everything breaks down, and the Charlie Sheen character ends up selling his dad's company out from underneath him, the company that his dad has worked for in all these years, and it just shows how evil it is. Yet we excuse it all the time, and we participate in it. And it has nothing at all to do with the kingdom of God. Jesus said, the rich man, remember, the rich man, it's very hard for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. In fact, it's harder than a camel going through the eye of a needle. Now, he didn't mean the camel needs to get on his knees and go. The camel can't go through the eye of the needle. It's completely impossible. And so what Jesus was saying was, it is impossible for a rich and greedy person. Jesus looked at the man and loved the man and said, follow me. Gave him this invitation to be a disciple, but said, you have to leave everything. You have to leave the things of the world if you want to follow me. And he couldn't do it. It wasn't possible for him. And the disciples said, well, then how can anyone enter? And he said, well, with God, all things are possible. And this is our challenge. We're caught up in it. It's very hard, you go on a mission trip and you see these people living completely different lifestyles. You get unplugged from media and everything, and you kind of feel this cleansing. And then you come back, and the sickness gets on you so fast. It really does. It's so hard. It's one of our great challenges today, to live in this wealthy culture and not get caught up in greed and idolatry, in modern idolatry. God can do it, though. With God, all things are possible. And we can enter the kingdom of God and of Christ. Now, we can live in the kingdom. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And all these things we worry about will be added on to us. And I know you know this, but we all need to be reminded. So this is 6 and 7. Don't be fooled by those who try to excuse these sins. For the anger of God, let me do that better. For the anger of God, Warren, I need you right here, will fall on those who disobey him. Don't participate in the things these people do. Don't be fooled. This is a solemn warning for us. Don't be fooled by those who try to excuse these sins. And that's what the world does. Greed is good. Pornography is not bad. These are excuses. You know in your heart. God tells us there's no excuse. The anger of God will fall on those who are disobedient. Don't be like them. Don't be part of them. We are so blessed to be a family, and we are a different family, like I keep having to tell Mary Reed. We're different than everybody else. We're not going to worship the things of the world like everybody else. We need lots of sleep, Mary Reed. You can't have a double sleepover 2 nights in a row. It's too hard for you. You're just going to be tired. We don't go out to eat every night. We're different. And accept it and love it because we're family. And so we're going to have a family exercise here today. And this is something I fondly remember at OCC when we did this. And what it is we're going to encourage one another by writing on a slip someone's name who you're thinking of and the spiritual gifts that you see in them. And Phyllis is going to introduce this, and so I don't want to take her role, but I wanted to share a memory, and that was that we did this, and we were in the other theater, and I was young guy, and Manuel Bolaños was my middle school, Sunday school teacher. Bless his heart. Boys. Boys. That's just constantly like, he was so patient and loving with us. And I was class clown, proud class clown of Robert E. Lee Junior High School. I was a complete turkey, and we did this exercise, and Manuel came up to me and handed me a slip, and it said wisdom on it, and I thought, why does he think that about me? I've shown no manifestation of wisdom, complete foolishness, all the list here pretty much, the moron logic and the bad stories and jokes and such. But Manny somehow saw that in me, and I was encouraged by that, Manny, and thank you for that. You have the gift of encouragement, and you encouraged me that day. It meant a lot to me. And so we're going to do this exercise as a family and be gentle and kind to one another. And, you do one of these things and you just say, I just hope it doesn't go wrong or people aren't offended. And so it's a family process. And everyone has one. Everyone here, you are ready, because we wanted to make sure everyone was covered. So don't leave and pass by the table out there and say, no one wrote anything for me. Oh yes, there is a note of encouragement there for you. And so Phyllis, I don't want to step on your toes here, so let me bring you up and you can introduce us, bring us to this exercise.